am coming here today to answer a question from Heather, and I'm going to read it to you right now. Got my little trusty piece of paper here that I printed out so I can bring it to the woods. This is going to be about trusting your voice, and even though there's a fear of being misunderstood, when there's when there's conversations going on and you're afraid of being rejected for being who you are, for thinking what you're thinking. So let me read that to you. I have a great fear of being misunderstood, which makes me remain quiet. I also greatly fear that voicing my opinion will result in others thinking I'm stupid somehow and reject me for it. And I find this holds me back in conversations with friends or in work environments. Now, Heather, let me tell you, I totally relate to this. I mean, who doesn't really? The most confident person in the world has a fear of being rejected. What's really ugly is the environment, the culture that we've created around this, right? There's no such thing as a conversation anymore. There's only like debating and winning. There's all this culture of competition and conflict. The culture of getting ahead in the workplace, or worse, like being popular in school, like the nastiness around kids stuff, and teasing kids for what they say or thinking outside the box. Because really, most of us people who think outside the box and have these insights into things, well, they get pushed aside, right? I mean, what genius that we now recognize as genius didn't get pushed aside at first? I mean, Albert Einstein, Martin Luther King, right? All these people. Ford, invented the car, right? Nobody believed in him, He would say, he's famous for saying, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have told me faster horses. But he invented cars, right? He thought outside the box, but nobody would listen to him at first. And I want you to really take that as something that builds your knowledge of yourself, because your knowledge of yourself and that you're in a process to understand and explore makes all the difference. Now, again, these environments and cultures that we created don't support that. And I can't tell you how many meetings I've sat in, even in conscious environments, in like a nonprofit that I worked for, or, other conscious, like, educational facilities that I've worked in. I can't tell you how scary it is when everybody's sitting around talking about something and you're like, hey people, we need to do it a different way. I see this so clearly, and you're all in just such a habit of doing it the old way. And then everybody would look at me like I'm crazy. But of course, a year later, everybody's doing it my way, but they had to really fight themselves, and there's this whole adjustment to get there. They say a ship doesn't turn on a dime, and if to understand that saying, when you have a huge ship, you can turn the wheel, but it'll just keep going straight for a long time before the momentum finally turns it. That's what happened to the Titanic, right? They saw that iceberg and they turned the wheel and they reversed the engines, but the momentum slammed them right into that iceberg. Sorry about that, Branch. Sorry about the shaking too. The camera's hanging on a tree over here. Okay. So all's that to say, I recognize how badly this culture sucks, okay? I recognize this culture of competition and putting people down in order to feel better, and how awful it really is, because it really, really is awful. And in terms of a solution to this, well, the truth is that there's no choice in this situation but to be a risk taker. There's no choice in this situation but to step up to the plate, saying, I'm going to be myself and all else be gone, and using your voice. Now, I know how hard it is. Believe me, I didn't start off life having a voice. I was a really quiet kid. I was teased like crazy. I was put down. I was in trouble with the police my whole teenage years, you know. But I went through this whole transformation, studying with a shaman for a few years and apprenticing. And there was this one time where um, we were saying this affirmation to each other. I won't go too deep into it, just to not spend too much time. But essentially, like, I would come to say it, looking into another person's eyes. I would say it, but want to say it, I'd be like, I couldn't say it, you know. So they had to really work with me around that. So I understand the difficulty that it is, and needing a supportive environment to start off in. And if there's anything that you can do, Heather, or anybody else who's listening to this, to find yourself a supportive environment where you're allowed to speak for yourself and people are going to love you and support you, that's, having that community is the key to being able to grow. It's like creating the boundary around a tree or around a little plant, creating that circle of support so that when you lose your center, they push you back in. And that's what it's all about. Now, Ariana and I are working on creating something really solid around community and personal growth program that we're going to be putting out there in the next few weeks. Hopefully, we're getting all that together, getting all the back end and website stuff. It just takes forever, but we want to have that kind of community that's supportive, really tight community where we'll have a lot of activities together and exercises that we can do together to really grow. So stay tuned for that. We aim to provide that because that's one of our biggest passions, is to support people in bringing forth their inner voice and creating a better world as a result of that. So meanwhile, in your specific situation, if you can bring yourself to either, if you can't share in a group, asking for the space. I know that sometimes I'm sitting in a group and I can't just interrupt everybody. I can't find that place to jump in, but sometimes I can ask for a one-on-one conversation. Hey, excuse me, my colleague, excuse me, my boss, can I have 10 minutes of your time? I would love to share some of my thoughts about this. What do you, and I really want to know what you think, if you could help me understand better, if you think that I don't understand, or this might contribute to the conversation, So staying humble about what you have to say can help, because then you don't risk that rejection, like you've already okay, I could be right, I could be wrong, and really asking for the ears of the people you want to speak to in a very specific and tight way. So maybe you need to write it out and read it, You say, hey, I want to read you this thing that I wrote. Tell me what you think. These are my ideas about this project. Those are some, maybe some small specific pieces of advice that I could give you around, creating the space for your voice to be heard so you don't have to constantly jump or compete. Asking for the specific time to share your thoughts about a project, and then, if you need to have it written out so you don't get tongue-tied in the process, you can do that. Hopefully this helps. I look forward to sharing more about everything that we're creating soon with you, and we'll see you soon. Some other video. Thank you.